This is a comic that I made 22 years ago, JB 2002. I'm really excited about the sponsor of this video, which is Clip Studio Paint. And that's also really given me the opportunity to understand how valuable this software will be for some people watching this video. So I will highlight some of the really cool features throughout the video that you won't see in any other painting and graphic program that you might already be familiar with. Starting off with, the comic. The fact that it has comic formats, including one I'd never heard of before, webtoons. These ever-scrolling, incredibly tall, digitally focused comic book and graphic novel formats. I can create a webtoon that, as a single file, has my entire comic book in it. I can always see my whole comic and really easy to just navigate between the pages as I go. And in pretty much no time at all, I have my entire webtoon or comic completely set up and ready to go. I think the best place to start is to do a bit of a reading so you can get excited about the epic adventure we're about to create. You can actually click this connect to smartphone button on the interface. It comes up with a QR code. It opens the app. Look at that. It's my comic. It's the whole comic. If I draw a pink mustache on my villain here, check this out. Pink mustache. It updates real time. I present to you the epic reading of... It's unnamed. I don't have a name for this.
Tell me again, sorcerer, when will I finally get to attack this fortress? Let me at him.
Have patience, my lord. At this very moment I have one of my most skilled spies in the city, so we will know when the city is at its weakest state. First we burn their inner city, weaken their defenses, and finally we exterminate.
Meanwhile,
inside the stronghold of Riddell. Well, it seems it's just about time for a little fun round here. Fun round here. Okay, anyway, she throws a Molotov cocktail at this building.
At last!
I guess that's the signal, because stronghold of Riddell is now aflame. And this army is crashing into the gates. Crackoom! I love that.
You must contain your thirst for battle, my lord.
I feel like these are the bad guys.
Hold your fire, men! On my command! Attack!
Yeah! Okay, yeah, let's go get him. That's as far as I got in my story. It's pretty epic. It's a strong opener. I just didn't go anywhere with it. I need to get in and set up the framework for my comic so I can get stuck into days of epic comic creation. So now in setting up the framework of my comic, this is just one of the many steps that really shows how strong Clip Studio Paint is for the process. Literally, like there's the panel tool. It's called frame border, and you just click and drag it and you make your frames, and it acts like a clipping mask for everything inside of it. You create huge amounts of content inside the panel. Nothing ever bleeds out. You can change the panel settings, and the same goes with text boxes. Clip Studio Paint literally has a speech bubble tool. It's called Balloon. And once I figure that out, I literally just click and drag and put all of these things in place. Because I've got all of the frames and all of the text, everything place-held and ready for me to just start drawing, done in like 10 minutes. It's really cool. Now, usually I would start off with a comic like this chronologically, but there are clearly two primary characters in this whole story that reoccur and need to be drawn on different angles and with different expressions. And there's one clear shot that shows both of them in frame in full body that I'm gonna start with. And I'll be able to use these as a sort of like character sheet I can refer to whenever they appear throughout the rest of the comic. Starting off with redesigning this commander guy. And it's clear that 13-year-old me really wanted to convey one thing. This is a brutal warlord who is a big boy, very large and muscular. It's also clear that the original character has a barbarian sort of vibe with the leather strap across his chest, some chains, minimal armor and clothing, but everything seeming a little more primitive, but just I guess I didn't know how to anchor to that. The original character has some ear piercings. I want to lean in that direction because it can give me some barbarian vibes by adding a bone through the nose and a scar over the face from all the battles that he's fought. Now onto the unnamed sorcerer. I think at this point, by the way, we can confidently assume these guys are the villains. They're attacking a stronghold, there's a dark advisor, I mean, come on. Every cliche in the book. And where the original design was fairly flat, I want to break it up a bit and create more layers. It kind of looks like the original design was sort of just wearing a big puffy prom dress that didn't look very nice. My new guy is channeling much more evil advisor vibes. All in all, I'd say this is a pretty big improvement and I'm pretty happy with the redesign. I have two character designs I'm really excited about and that I can use as the foundation for actually recreating this. So let's start at page 1, shall we? So let's jump into panel 1 of page 1. Now, I want to stick to the original layouts and compositions as much as possible, but at the same time, there's a lot to be improved in the original. Half of their heads are sort of cut off. The fortress itself is designed really poorly. I want the characters in the fortress to feel really big, like this is a moment that's about to really be intense. You remember when they were side by side? Well, they're side by side here, and I don't know if you've noticed, but they're on the other side of each other.
While editing this, it became apparent it's not super clear what I'm talking about because it looks like they're standing in the same positions. But in this later panel where you see them both in full, we are in front of them as they face the castle. In this first panel of the whole comic, we are behind them as they face the castle. So their positions have done a total 180.
It might seem like a small thing, but it kind of matters, especially because reading graphic novels, the viewer really needs to be able to orient themselves in this world and understand what is where. I swapped them over, and the solution, of course, is to just reposition those speech bubbles, which actually gives the horizon of the background more visual room to breathe, which is great because this is an establishing shot. Next, we have this shot where we meet the spy. None of these characters are named. But what I was trying to do here was actually create a really cool sort of pose. I think I was going for sexy comic book girl vibes. I've discovered this feature in Clip Studio Paint that makes dynamic poses really easy. It's mind-blowingly cool. Now over here are a bunch of different material options. There's one called Material 3D, and you can go down to Pose. And look at this, a huge amount of poses of body parts and entire figures. I can just drag it over here. It's absolutely wild. I have a 3D character model. I can swap to female, change the camera angle, and puppet it around into the perfect pose. There's a whole library here of pre-made poses. You could, if you wanted to, make the entire comic with these puppets first. Other than this, I'm gonna stick to my sketch and line work and all that stuff, just in the spirit of trying to, do it the way I did it back in the day, but I needed to show you that, and I want to use that for this character introduction pose because I can play around to get something really dynamic and unique without needing to sketch and re-sketch. It's really cool. So just taking my 3D model from there and tweaking it until I have a pose that feels like it fits in the frame nicely, and sketch over it and tweak from there. She lights the Molotov cocktail thing, throws it onto the straw roofs of the houses inside the fortress, and the idea, I think, was that it's the signal to start their attack. In the original, I only have the lighting and the throwing of that signal fire, but there was never anything showing the signal fire from a distance. I think that's kind of important because that's what we can use to pull back to our commander character and see what he sees, so we can interpret the scene from his perspective. And I've just taken my commander sketch and just put him on the corner, expanded him up. I'll tweak it with the expression when I get to the line work, but actually this works really well. Let's take it to the next level by adding some line work. This is gonna add a lot of impact. The vector brushes that come with Clip Studio Paint are really cool. Like the default one is brilliant, which is called the G Pen, but then there's one called the Real G Pen, which just has a hint of texture, just like a subtle amount, which not only do I feel like it's as smooth and comfortable as drawing with a brilliant vector brush, but it also looks like a really high quality raster ink brush. I loved the ink process of this piece. There's a couple of things I want to show you that are just insanely cool that I experienced through the course of doing this. Two things. First of all, they have this tool over here, correct line. I can take this brush and go narrow and just paint over, let's say, these mountains, just thins it down. Right? And you can just do it in steps. You can just keep going until they slowly fade away, or you can do the opposite. You can thicken everything up. The malleability of these vector brushes, while they look so crisp and rastery, is awesome. I just really love it. The other thing, and this one completely blew my mind, this chain, the necklace on this guy here, is my brush, which is not a vector brush. It turns out you can draw with a raster brush on the vector layer, like the thick rings brush, and that is drawing a vector layer. This works with all of my other brushes. Even the watercolor brush, look at that. That's painted on a vector layer, and Clip Studio Paint, I'm way too excited about this, has turned it into vector art. Like, it's infinitely scalable, and that's applied in my comic on, like, let's say the neck chain. Like, that's just a single line drawn from my chain brush on a vector layer. I'm aware that there's a lot of people watching this who don't care about this, but it's very cool, and if you're an artist and you're not illustrating in Clip Studio Paint, these are just a few of the things I'm discovering that show how truly Illustrator first this program is. Clip Studio Paint is available on all major platforms, so Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, Chromebook. There's a free trial available to new users, so if you want to feel it, go check it out. There's no layer restrictions. You can have up to 10,000 layers for large-scale image and comic productions. There's multi-page management for Webtoon and virtual comics like you can see me using this. And there's a whole community asset store. And the epic illustration tools don't stop there. Version 3 has just come out with a bunch of new features to make your drawing process even smoother, including layer comp, so you can easily show and hide and affect groups of layers without manually clicking individual layers. There's a circular text option that's been added, a color match feature, which is kind of like gradient maps, but instead of sourcing colors from a gradient, you can source them from another image. There's new filter additions such as pencil drawing, film and camera, and chromatic aberration. For people who use the popular website Pose Maniacs, which is a posing reference website used by many artists, you can now pose on that website and import it into Clip Studio Paint by just clicking the Clip Studio Paint Association button. It's never been easier to import and manipulate a reference. It's mind-blowingly great, so go check it out. The link is in the description. Now, in professional comic creation scenarios, there are multiple people for this step. There's someone whose job it is to do the sketching step. There's someone else whose job it is to do the inking step. But there's a step I didn't do in the original that I get to do now because I run an art studio, and Alicia, the very talented artist you've seen join me in many videos, she's a brilliant painter, so I'm handing this right over to her to add some color. I am really excited to just see what she does. Alright, we are ready to start the sketches for page 2. However, this isn't page 2. I have accidentally swapped these two pages. This should be obvious to me because page 2 had everyone attacking and then the commander saying, like, hold your thirst for battle, my lord. And then on the third page, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, attack. It's the other way around. He's like, at last, on page 1, then he's like, hold your firemen on my command, attack, and everyone's attacking. Because why would on page 3 he be saying, hold your firemen? They've already fired. So that's page 3. Okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm swapping the pages over because I'm pretty sure that I had them the wrong way around. What are you gonna do? There's a bit of rearranging to do, primarily from a compositional standpoint. Our first panel, the villainous commander, is on the left panel facing directly off to the left. This is just bad practice. So in my recreation, I've also zoomed out a little bit to show some more of the character, who up to this point we really haven't seen much detail of. We've got panel 1, 2, and 3, which I've rearranged to being mid-shot, close-up, and then an extreme close-up with his eyes. The ability to be able to use the liquefy tool just in the normal workflow is amazing. You don't have to go out to a liquefy window, then you can just sort of flip your canvas horizontally, which makes it way easier for your eye to sort of see the things that you're naturally drawing a bit too asymmetrically, and just use the liquefy tool, going in and out of drawing and liquefying and just shaping things up to be the way you want them to be. Now last but not least, with the sketches of panel 3, there's a bit of reconfiguring to do with the last part, the reveal of an army about to attack, which was also framed at the bottom in a way that cut off the silhouette. But in my recreation, I'm going to fill the frame with the army. I'm going to add the silhouette of the advisor, who is completely missing even though he was by his side. Flaming arrows are letting loose from the army behind him. So this is both the chance to introduce the army and the action commencing. To see this anew with my current standard is just really refreshing and super fun. So I am really keen to jump into the line work and taking it to the next stage. In the original, I have anime lines. There's another tab called Flash. I could just grab one of these patterns and just drag it over this area. Look at that! Look how easy that is! I want to have like a purple night sky, but I want to have that gradient towards like an orange horizon to allude to the fire and the torches that are behind him. This is now ready to head over to Alicia and see some awesome coloring happen. Take it away, Alicia. Now we're on to page 3, where the chaos is truly coming down upon this fortress. Panel 2 has the army crashing through the door, and panel 3 has our advisor advising the warlord to contain his own thirst for battle so that true chaos may reign later. This really needs to feel like the beginning of something really big. I want this to start to feel chaotic. So having some of those soldiers charging up to the castle leads nicely to the second panel, where I can have this upwards dramatic angle of our soldiers crashing this battering ram through the front gate. The changes I've made make these panels a little more askew, which make it feel like action away from these two characters, and giving these guys a little bit more center stage, so that when we get to this last page, our eye goes through this, but we end and rest where it needs to, and the drama of our villains. Okay, so this is ready to hand over to Alicia now. I don't need to do a whole layer of like color references for things that I have in mind for this, except for one. Sketching in some green lines emanating from this staff. I just felt like the comic, even though it ends on a cliffhanger, needs something to allude to more drama coming. Everything too, tonally so far, is very hot and earthy. And the advisor has only ever been the guy that's just like, hey, just hold back, just chill, dude. Maybe it's because he is gonna be using his power. There's one more change I want to make. I think we should change this to, you must contain your thirst for battle, my lord. Our time will come eventually, and then we reign true chaos. He's not just holding back the meathead. He and the meathead have even bigger, more disastrous plans. Let's see what Alicia does with this one. After 22 years, this comic has been dramatically recreated. I think we should finish this video with a read through of how this story has been recreated 22 years later.
Tell me again, sorcerer, when will I finally get to attack this fortress?
Have patience, my lord. At this very moment, I have one of my most skilled spies inside, so we will know when the city is at its weakest state. First, we burn their inner city, weaken their defenses, and finally, we exterminate.
Meanwhile, inside the stronghold of Redell.
Well, it seems that it's just about time for a little fun round here.
At last. Hold your fire, men! On my command! Attack!
You must contain your thirst for battle, my lord. Our time will come eventually, and then we reign true chaos.
Massive thank you to my patrons for making this possible. It's due to your support that I can have artists like Alicia join me in the studio and help make these productions so much better. Also, if you want to check out the final comic and the original, we've got a public page that you can go to in the description and view it in webtoon form. I've never submitted to that website before, so if it's one that you frequent, or even if it's not, feel free to upvote it so more people can enjoy it. And of course, make sure to, click the things for this video to make sure more people can enjoy it.
I can't even begin to tell you how satisfying it has been to take something I've seen for so long and completely transform it, which wouldn't be possible in the way that we've done it without Alicia's help. Thank you so much, Alicia, for adding color to it. It just really brings it to life. And thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this process as much as I have. It's obviously a bit more of a sentimental, personal one, but I also feel like the results are pretty epic. That's it for now. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.